Tansei. My name is Monique Gray Smith, and I'm an author for our littlest citizens and all the way up to our not so little citizens. And since the news broke on May 27th about the 215 children and the unmarked graves on the residential school in Tecumseh, I've been inundated with requests about how do I talk to the kids, both from parents, grandparents, and teachers. So I thought I would do a short video about some pieces that might be helpful to you. I think the place to start is checking yourself. How are you feeling with this? And what do you know about the truth of Canada? There's so many places to expand your learning about the truth of this place we call Canada. So that when you have these conversations and you get some of the difficult questions from your children, you are ready to answer them. And that before you have the conversation, that you feel like you're grounded. And so you might have a child who asks you in the car on the way home, why am I wearing an orange shirt again today? You can say, you know what, after dinner, let's have this talk. You can do it as you go for a walk. If you're in a class, you can ensure the chairs are all in a circle so that everybody can see each other and have equal conversation and equitable conversation. To think about and tell the truth, that for a very long time in this country, there were laws that sent Indigenous children to schools that were far away from their homes. And that in those schools, really bad things happened. And again, your language, depending on the child or the children, will vary. You might say there were really bad things happen. If they're older or maybe they're, more developed emotionally and intellectually and mentally than their age, you might tell them there were abuses that happened. And you can give them things to read, right? And you can read with them. I think also, if they're ready to have those conversations about why were these laws put in place, that we as Indigenous people were seen as inferior, that we needed to change, that our ways, our culture, our language, our ways of knowing, being, and living and walking in this world were seen as, not held with dignity, not held with respect, seen as needed to be changed. And again, the language you can use if they're older and they understand, you can talk about assimilation. Again, if they're older and they understand, you can talk about genocide and how that actually is what has happened in this country. Some of you have been asking, what can I read? So I'm going to give you authors' names, not necessarily books, because some of these authors have a collection, and not just books, but they are contributing to the wellness of our world in many ways, through podcasts, through movies, through TV. They're the creators. So for children from really, some of them from birth until, late teens, anything by Julie Flett, Christy Jordan Fenton, and the late Uliman, Margaret Pokiak Fenton, Tasha Spillett, Jenny K. Dupree, Cynthia Leidick Smith, Tracy Sorrell, David A. Robertson, Richard Van Camp, and Dallas Hunt are just a few. I also have a few books for our littlest citizens, like My Heart Fills with Happiness and You Hold Me Up. This book is now available in Anishinaabe in English, and it really is a book about how do we want to be together. You hold me up when you're kind to me, when you respect me, when you play with me, when you listen to me. All those ways of how do we be together. And then when we are kind. This book, illustrated by the beautiful Nicole Neidhardt, is really a salve right now, right? Kindness is a salve. Kindness lowers our cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and increases oxytocin and dopamine, which is the love hormone. So if you're looking for some ways to change things, be kind, contribute. If you're able to financially to your friendship center, to the nation closest to you, have ways to be kind. Also, this beautiful one by Richard Van Camp, We Sang You Home. For older kids, there's Speaking Our Truth. I think, this is marketed for 9 to 16-year-olds. I think it's for 9 to 90-year-olds because so many generations went through both the public school system and sitting at dinner tables and not learning the truth of our history. So that's one resource. This was created last year for the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. Every Child Matters for September 30th, Orange Shirt Day. This is available if you just Google Every Child Matters, National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. Anything written by Phyllis Jack Webstad. Also older young people and beginning to talk about adults and teens. This beautiful book, Picking Up the Pieces by Carrie Newman and Kirsty Hudson. Also looking at this book, this flip book, Lucy and Lola, and then literally when you flip it over is this beautiful story, When We Play Our Drums, They Sing by Richard Van Camp. Also a few more authors' names for adults and teens, anything by Tanya Talaga, whether that be reading material or podcasts. Cherie Desmoulins, Louise Erdrich, Michelle Good's book, 5 Little Indians, Helen Knott in My Moccasins, Teresa Mailhot, again, David A. Robertson, Richard Van Camp, Wabgishig Rice, Drew Hayden Taylor, Thomas King, and Richard Wagamis. All of those storytellers and writers have books, short stories, podcasts, ways for us to continue to learn and grow. And they all address not only residential school, but the legislations that have impacted perhaps the wellness of us. I know legislations have profoundly impacted my family as an Ihihoesqueo, as a Cree woman, and that the legislations have ripple effects. And one of those ripple effects is our relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. And this is one of these times that we can begin to come together. You know, at the closing ceremonies of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Dr. Marie Wilson talked about the children who never came home, who died at residential school. And she's like, can you imagine the utter devastation? Can you imagine? And that's what's happening now, is parents, grandparents, aunties, and uncles are imagining. And the empathy is coming alive. And that empathy will move us forward. It will create change. We cannot rely on the federal or provincial governments for that change. We've seen that. The change is incumbent upon us as citizens who live in this place we call Canada. And so I invite you to please have these conversations with your children. Have the conversations in the classes. Hold the space. Have the conversations with your friends, with your older relatives. And yes, there will be some who will have the usual responses. Oh, that happened so long ago, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that we are only beginning this journey to, heal, to understand, to uphold dignity, and to move forward. And every single one of us has a role in that. So I invite you to think about, what is your role? What can you be reading? What can you be listening to? Who can you be having conversations with? So that when the children ask you, and they will, that you're ready to have these conversations. And there will be some of you who your children or your grandchildren or your nieces or your nephews, they will be teaching you. And so a big part of all of this is our humility, to realize that there's lots we don't know and more to be revealed. And so I offer thanksgiving to you for watching this video. May you please, go to your library, get books out, order from your local bookstore, and if you need to, order online. But read. Continue to educate your heart, your mind, and your spirit.